talk about that Holy Trinity. Now, a lot of you have already talked about rejecting the Holy Trinity. Some of you will be like, no, the Trinity is based on Tertullian. Yeah, that's right. I covered that in one of my videos. That the Tertullian Trinity is incorrect. All right? It is not the actual doctrine given to us by the Elohim. All right? In the Tertullian Trinity, you literally have a God, all right, figure who is in the center of it all, in the center of a triangle trilogy. And that he is part of them, but none of them are each other. So therefore, the Father is not the Son is not the Father, the Holy Spirit is not the Father, the Holy Spirit is not the Son, but God is all of them. So now you have to think, so who, if God is the Father, but God is all of them, how is he not the Son and not the Holy Spirit? This is the problem with the Tertullian Trinity, because they were trying to make sense of the actual ancient doctrine that was held by the Pharisees and was confirmed by Yeshua himself back in the day. The original Trinity, which I've been waiting on several of the teachers just to, point out, Shaddai, all right, is based on 3 letters, or the Trinity. Of course, Shaddai is 3 letters, but the Trinity is based on the 3 letters that make up Shaddai's name. Okay, you have the Shin, and the Dalet, and the Yod. Now, of course, you had the group of the Hebrews that were divided amongst these. All right. I see a lot of people going against the Sadducees, saying, no, we must go against the doc. The Sadducees claimed the lineage of Zadok. Okay? Because when they were first building the temple, they wanted to say, no, we got the blood of Zadok. We should be the high priest. We should be the priest. But their doctrine was so bad. It was so bad. All right. That they had to throw that out. But no, do not sit there and say Zadok went against the actual doctrine. All right. Did y'all forget that John the Baptist is also in the line of Zadok? Or that you also had Mary and also Zechariah in the line of Zadok? What are you guys talking about? Huh? We're just going to skip and just say, no, the Sadducees were proof that Zadok went against the doctrine. Are you kidding me? What does that mean? John the Baptist was bad too? Huh? Did y'all forget that the line of Zadok is the branch? It's one of the branches which was marked by the Lord. You do know that Yeshua himself came through the bloodline of Zadok, because Mary also contains some of the bloodline of Zadok. Y'all do know that, right? Okay, so why was everybody's mind blown away by the thought of Zadok being evil? I'm sorry, I digressed a lot. Let's go back to the Trinity. All right, so we have Shaddai. All right, the Shin, the Dalet, the Yod. And the Sadducees, they rejected things like the angel or the resurrection, and they rejected the Holy Spirit. Therefore, the Sadducees, they were this group of the Brews, right, claiming the line of Zadok, who denied basically the rest of the Tanakh. For some strange reason, they accepted the first 5 books of the Torah. I mean, I don't know why. Because if you reject the angel of Yahweh, then you reject the whole thing. But they just rejected the angel, they rejected the spirit, and they rejected the resurrection, which means they rejected Shaddai altogether. And they believed that the doctrine did not come through Yah, but was supposed to be actually sent through a man named Melchizedek. And we're going to cover that a little later. All right. The Pharisees, however, which we call them the Pharisees, they came about because, they had a lot of money and stuff like that. But they didn't like the doctrine of the people claiming to be descendants of Zadok. Okay. So they went more into the scriptures. Of course, they kind of got led off a little. Some of their stuff went off, we got the Talmud and stuff, whoa. But they did not want to reject the original Trinity or the name of the Father, which is Shaddai. Okay? They had some things confused that Yeshua taught a little different. They believed that the Shin representing the Father, but they called it the resurrection because they believed that the resurrection belonged to the Father. The Father had the power of the resurrection. And of course, they believed in the Spirit. So the Dalet represented the Spirit of the Father, which is what we call the Ruach Kadesh, the Holy Spirit. And then, of course, you had the Yod, which is the hand of the Father, right? The arm of the strong hand and arm of the Father. And during that time, they believed that the Yod, of course, was not just the hand, but the angel and the image of the Father. All right. Therefore, they believed that his hand was his way that he came and, appeared to us. Therefore, they called it the angel. Therefore, the Pharisees believed in the angel, the Holy Spirit, and the resurrection. The Sadducees did not. They rejected all the other books except for the first 5, which is still weird. Okay? Now, the Father, which is the Shin, of course, we know that Yeshua teaches that it is not the Father, it is the Father who has power of resurrection, but he has given the power of resurrection to the Son, so that all that belongs to the Father was given to the Son. Therefore, the Son has the power over the resurrection. Therefore, he's trying to correct this thing about the Trinity that people were misunderstanding. Of course, about the Dalet and the Holy Spirit is correct, and the Father. But instead of calling the Shin the resurrection, it was the Yod that was the resurrection, the angel. But the doctrine of the angel, the Spirit, and the resurrection, or so we say Father, was still right on the name of Shaddai. And that they have based it on the name of Shaddai, right? Of course, you got 100 years later, people aren't teaching no secrets. Tertullian trying to figure out how is Shaddai the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. He comes up with his form of the Trinity he thinks helps people understand. But the best one is always the ancient one, okay? The Father, the Shin, the Dalet, the Spirit, the Yod, the angel. Okay? The angel of the Lord is also the Son of the Lord. If you reject the angel of the Lord, you're more of like a Sadducees. And when they approached Yeshua basically to battle him on the doctrine of the resurrection, where they were asking him, oh, well, if this woman had a bunch of husbands, whose wife shall she be in the resurrection? All right, he answered them back with a riddle. And he was basically like, in the resurrection, says they'll be like angels. Angels in Elyon, which are neither given nor taken in marriage. Which had them thinking like, huh? Oh. You got some other verses where he says, why do you question me about things you have not studied? Or you err in your studies. Because even at the bush, the resurrection is shown. All right, so basically he's getting at the Sadducees about their weird doctrine. He's like, you reject the rest of the Tanakh, and then you reject the angel of Yahweh, and yet you believe in the first 5 books, which were written by Moses after he encounters the angel Yahweh, which is literally says angel Yahweh in them first 5 books. All right. And remember, he said that the resurrection, of course, they believe that the Shin was the resurrection because the resurrection was of the Father, was given to the Son. Therefore, Yah is the resurrection. Therefore, he says to them, even at the bush, the resurrection is shown. In other words, it literally says that angel Yahweh appeared in a flame of fire on the bush. It said angel Yahweh. All right. Not an angel sent by Yahweh, but angel Yahweh. This is why Yeshua talked to them like that and got at them like that. And they never questioned him again. It was a foolish belief. Of course, later on, we have the book of Hebrews, which is where their doctrine comes back alive. And as you read in the book of Hebrews, you see that they're literally trying to tear into the angel of Yah. This is why for 400 years, people believe that the book of Hebrews was one of the most blasphemous books of the Bible, or not even in the Bible. They didn't want it contained in the Bible because it literally blasphemed the Holy Spirit. There are a lot of people who don't actually know what the blasphemy of the Holy Spirit is. In Christian doctrine, blasphemy of the Holy Spirit is to reject the Holy Spirit. But in the Yahwist and ancient doctrine, and out of Yeshua's mouth himself, blasphemy of the Holy Spirit is to say that Yahweh or the angel or the Father are of evil spirits, or that they have their power come from evil spirits, or that they teach a doctrine of demons. That is blasphemy of the Holy Spirit. There is no forgiveness offered for that. And therefore, the book of Hebrews became one of the most dangerous, considered one of the most dangerous books placed in the Bible until about like 450. I mean, it wasn't even placed in the Bible. They just said, don't place in the Bible, but they forced it in there. Like 450 AD, canonized. All right. Despite everybody saying, no, this is one of the most blasphemous books. Zulpigrapha, do not put that in. In the book of Hebrews, it goes against the resurrection. They teach that it is only appointed to man once to die and then to judgment, because the Sadducees did not believe in the resurrection. It teaches against baptism. It says, let us go on to better things and let us go on to perfection. And of course, talks bad about the angel of Yahweh in the book of Hebrews, saying that he was the evil one who, under the penalty of death, right, forced us into Torah. I know some of you, when you read it, you may not understand that at first. So it's important not to nitpick through these books with verses, but actually read them chapter upon chapter. In the book of Hebrews, it also speaks, well, this is a sad one, where you have people, or many Christians, who wanted to defend the book of Hebrews so bad that a lot of the Hellenists went back there and tried to change what was said about Melchizedek in the book of Genesis, where it says, and he gave a tenth, which was talking about Melchizedek. They put the name Abraham, which was, you never should add stuff in there. This is why you read out the NIV version, it's going to say Abraham, but if you read out the Torah, it does not say Abraham, because that wouldn't make no sense that Abraham gave a tenth of all, but then told the king of Sodom, I'm not taking none of your stuff. So did he give a tenth of all, or he didn't? What makes more sense is, just like it said, at Salem was that Melchizedek, king of Shalom, was with the other kings, all right, waiting for his stuff to be returned. And then when Abraham came back, he blessed Abraham and blessed El of Elion and the El of Abraham. And he gave a tenth of all, meaning he gave a tenth of all that just was returned to him out of happiness. He said, I wouldn't have even had none of this stuff. It was for you. Take some of this, take some of this, take some of this. In Christian doctrine, they want you to believe that Melchizedek appeared out of nowhere, and the whole city of Shalom appeared out of nowhere. No. That doesn't make any sense at all. I know I've gone way off topic, and because that's actually something we should talk about in the next one, that actually more goes with the name of Shalom and the doctrine of Melchizedek. Okay, but yes, the Holy Trinity is purely based on the name Shaddai. All right, so do not be like the Sadducees. Do not reject the name Shaddai. Do not reject the angel. Do not reject the resurrection. Do not reject the Holy Spirit. All right, know the secrets Know the secrets to these letters. Know the secrets to the meanings and the power that's held within it. Know the true doctrine. Because when he comes, he doesn't care about all your knockoff shadow versions or oops, I got real close but not quite there. No, he comes for a pure doctrine. See, there is an advantage to taking the purity over the impurity, just like there is an advantage a man has over his shadow. Even the minute amount of the purest will I take over the vast majority of impure. The Lord does not want a shadow religion. He does not care for the many shadow religions or vast doctrines. All right? Learn about the name Zara Babel, because we have been sown in confusion, sown in the land of Babylon. There's a reason John called this place Mystery Babylon. There's a reason when you look around, there's so many different doctrines and so much confusion. Yeah, I know. It is Babylon, city of confusion, time of confusion, a mystery city of confusion. So the place with the most doctrines and the place with the most confusing beliefs, that, pretty much woo the world would be Babylon. All right. So I suggest, like I said, we're going to cover probably Melchizedek on another time. But we definitely should cover about some more of them name doctrines. All right. So before we get to Melchizedek and the book of Hebrews, because you guys messed up with that one, boy. Shoot. Oof. I don't even know what to say. Man, I really don't even know what to say when it comes to how many cats been really on the book of Hebrews as far as going against the angel of Shaddai. Oh my goodness, I feel like talking about it right now, but I know we'll talk about it right now. We really got to get on to some of these names. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. I'll see y'all in a minute.